There is a version of you that already knows the answer. You have felt it, that quiet, uncomfortable certainty sitting somewhere behind your ribs. And yet, you still check the phone. You still replay the conversation. You still reach out. Not because you are weak, but because something deeper is running the program. Something your conscious mind did not choose. And today we are going to look at exactly what that something is. Let's be honest about what this feels like. You are not chasing someone out of cruelty to yourself. You are chasing them because, in some deep and irrational way, the silence feels more unbearable than the pain of trying. You send the message. No reply. You find a reason to bring up their name in conversation. You engineer a coincidence. You check their profile. Again. And each time you do, there is a small, almost invisible reward. A flicker of hope. A tiny hit of something that feels dangerously close to being alive. This is not a personality flaw. This is not you being too much or too needy. This is a system that was built over millions of years to keep you searching for things your brain has decided matter. And right now, your brain has decided this person matters, even when the evidence says otherwise. Psychologists call this pattern something very specific. It sits at the intersection of attachment theory, dopamine reward cycles, and something called intermittent reinforcement. And once you understand how it works, not just intellectually but viscerally, the grip it has on you begins, quietly, to soften. Before we go deeper, there is something you need to hear. You are not broken. The fact that you are here, listening to this, means you already sense that something is off. That awareness is not weakness. It is the beginning of something important. The brain does not malfunction when it does this. It performs exactly as designed. The problem is not you. The problem is that the design was made for a world very different from this one. A world where persistence usually led to connection. A world where the people who mattered to you were physically close, and silence was temporary, and showing up again was simply survival. You live in that world still, neurologically. Even when the person you are reaching for is only a text message away and choosing, every single day, not to meet you there. Your brain does not yet understand that distinction, and that is why you keep going back. Here is what is happening inside your mind. Think of your brain as a slot machine, not a cruel one, a very, very old one. One that was designed to keep you engaged with anything that once gave you a feeling of warmth or closeness or being chosen. When someone gives you attention, a smile, a reply, a moment where you feel truly seen, your brain releases dopamine. Not because of the moment itself, but because of the anticipation of it. Dopamine is not the reward. Dopamine is the wanting. And here is the critical detail. Dopamine surges are strongest not when the reward is guaranteed, but when it is uncertain. This is called intermittent reinforcement. It is the same principle that makes slot machines the most addictive form of gambling on the planet. Unpredictable rewards create stronger pull than reliable ones. So when this person ignores you, and then one day replies, even casually, even with something small, your brain floods. Not because the reply was meaningful, because it was unpredictable, and your nervous system locks onto that pattern. It says, keep trying, something might come. There is another layer here. Psychologist John Bowlby spent decades studying something called attachment style, and what he found was this. When a bond feels threatened, when closeness becomes uncertain, certain people experience a powerful internal alarm. It floods the body with cortisol. It narrows your focus. It makes the person who might pull away feel like the only thing worth paying attention to. This is called anxious attachment, and it does not mean you are clingy. It means your nervous system learned, somewhere early in life, that love required effort. That connection was something you had to earn. And now, without your conscious permission, it is running that same program on every relationship that starts to feel important. The combination is devastating in its precision. Intermittent reinforcement keeps the dopamine searching. Anxious attachment keeps the nervous system alarmed. And together they create a loop that feels almost impossible to step out of. Almost. Now that you understand the mechanism, here is how you begin to interrupt it. Not by forcing yourself to stop caring, that has never worked, but by changing your relationship to the loop itself. When you feel the urge to check, to reach out, to search, do not obey it immediately. Simply notice it. Say quietly to yourself, there it is, the dopamine search. This single act, observing the impulse without acting on it, activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that can override instinct. Naming a feeling reduces its power. Neuroscientists at UCLA proved this in a 2007 study using fMRI scans. The act of labeling an emotional state literally dampened the activity of the amygdala, the brain's alarm center. The loop feeds on uncertainty, so make one thing certain. Set a boundary, not as punishment, but as information. A clear, calm, honest message. Or, if they have already made their position clear, a quiet decision made to yourself. I am not going to search for this. Every time you break the cycle of checking, you starve the dopamine loop of its fuel. It does not disappear overnight, but it weakens, measurably. Your body is in a state of alert. The cortisol is real, the restlessness is physical, so meet it with something physical. A walk, cold water, deep, slow breathing. Anything that activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the calm, rest, and digest mode that sits opposite to the alarm. This is not a distraction. This is neuroscience. You are literally telling your body, the threat has passed. Beneath the urge to chase, there is usually a belief. Something like, if I try hard enough, they will see me. If I disappear, I will become invisible entirely. My worth depends on being chosen. These beliefs were formed somewhere, often in childhood, often without your awareness. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches us that feelings are not facts. They are interpretations, and interpretations can be revised, not by denying the pain, but by asking, is this story the only possible truth? Underneath the chasing, there is grief. Grief for the version of this that you wanted, for the closeness that felt possible and then, quietly, wasn't. Psychologist Susan David calls this emotional granularity. The ability to identify the precise shape of what you feel, rather than flattening it into something simple. Give yourself permission to feel the loss, not to dwell in it, but to move through it. Because as long as you are chasing, you are not yet grieving. And as long as you are not grieving, you are not yet free. Here is the simple model to carry with you. Think of yourself as a person standing at the edge of a well. The well is deep, and someone once dropped something beautiful into it, and now you are leaning over the edge, listening for the echo. But the echo is not coming, and every time you lean further, you risk losing your balance. The work is not to stop caring about what was dropped in. The work is to turn around, to notice that there is an entire world behind you. Light, ground, air, things that are not echoes, things that are real and present and already here. You did not choose this. Your nervous system chose it for you, based on patterns older than language. That is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be understood. And understanding, real understanding, is not passive. It is the quietest form of courage there is. You have spent so much time reaching toward someone who was not reaching back. What would it feel like to reach toward yourself? Gently, without expectation. Just reach.